Welcome to the Reddit mic. We've got really extraordinary stories shared by one of you, our listeners, today.
Yeah, and our mission is to kind of unpack them.
We're looking at those surprising costs, legal, financial, even social, that pop up when you think the rules just don't apply to you.
It really is the ultimate reality check, isn't it? These stories are like case studies in what we sometimes call the consequence multiplier.
Consequence multiplier. Explain that.
It's that huge gap between the small cost the person thinks they'll pay for crossing a line and the, frankly, astronomical price they actually end up facing legally or socially.
Okay, got it. Let's dive straight in, starting with the one that always gets the internet buzzing, the unexpected power of tree law.
Ah, yes. Let's call this deep dive one, the $190,000 misunderstanding.
Okay, set the scene. We're in Tennessee, right? New Nashville.
That's right. Homeowner gets back from, a nice vacation, relaxed. Only to find these two huge, beautiful, mature white oak trees on their property. Just gone, cut down.
No, who did it?
Their new neighbor. An aspiring country singer, the homeowner kind of jokingly called him Future Johnny Cash.
Future Johnny Cash wanted the trees gone. Why?
Apparently he wanted less shade on his brand new front porch and deck. Simple as that, or so he thought.
Okay, but how did he approach it? Did he talk to the homeowner first?
Nope. And this is where you immediately see the entitlement, the complete lack of understanding. He didn't apologize. He just left a letter.
A letter. Saying what?
Offering a $2,000 Venmo payment for the trees.
$2,000 for two mature oak trees. That's insulting.
Insulting and legally clueless. We're talking maybe 100 years of growth here.
So what did the homeowner do? I hope they didn't take the money.
No, thankfully they got some really sharp advice fast. Number one, do not accept that Venmo. It could muddy the waters, maybe look like agreement.
Right, could be seen as settling.
Exactly. Instead, they immediately contacted an attorney who actually specialized in, believe it or not, tree law.
It's a real thing.
Oh, it's very real. And they hired a certified arborist for a proper valuation. Crucial steps.
Okay, so talk about the law in Tennessee. Why is tree law so potent?
Well, it's fascinating because trees, especially mature ones, are legally seen as pretty much irreplaceable assets. It's not like damaging a fence. This is serious property damage.
Okay.
And the Tennessee Code, Section 39-14405, basically says if you trespass and damage or destroy someone's trees, you can be on the hook for double or even triple their value.
Double or triple? Wow, it's punitive.
Highly punitive. It's designed to deter exactly this kind of behavior. And it's not just theoretical either.
You mean there's precedent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a case, Jones v. Johnson, where the court actually awarded the owner more than 5 times what they'd originally paid someone to remove trees that were cut down wrongfully.
5 times. Okay, the courts are not messing around with this.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They take violating property boundaries very seriously, especially when it involves something irreplaceable like a century-old tree.
So we know the law can multiply the damages, but why was the starting value so high in the first place? $2,000 seemed low, but what makes 2 oaks worth potentially hundreds of thousands?
Ah, good question. Because these weren't just any old trees, they were white oaks Quercus alba. And the arborist specifically noted they were veneer quality.
Veneer quality meaning?
Meaning the wood is really high grade, highly sought after for expensive stuff, high-end furniture, custom musical instruments.
Oh, like guitars or banjos, given Nashville.
Exactly. Banjos even, not just, firewood or basic lumber. Plus, the sheer fact they were mature, maybe 100 years old, and thriving in an urban setting, that makes them almost impossible to just replace. You can't just plant another 100-year-old tree.
Right. The whole point of the law is restoration, and you can't restore that.
Precisely. So the arborist started the calculation. Base compensation, roughly $1,000 per year per tree.
Okay, so 100 years. That's $100,000 per tree baseline.
You got it. So $200,000 baseline before you even factor in the potential double or triple damages for trespasses under Tennessee law. The total potential case value just skyrocketed.
Absolutely mind-blowing. So what happened? Did it go to court? What was the final number?
Here's the kicker. It didn't even get to court. That initial $2,000 offer turned into a $190,000 cash settlement, paid directly to the homeowner.
$190,000. Paid by future Johnny Cash.
Get this nut? Paid by his father. Apparently, Dad flew in from Los Angeles to clean up the mess.
Wow, so Dad bailed him out.
Seems like it. And the word is, future Johnny Cash moved back to L.A. shortly after. Guess Nashville wasn't his scene after all.
The price of a sunnier deck turned out to be nearly $250,000. That is a serious, serious reality check.
It is, but it also brings up that question, for you listening. When the consequences just paid off by a wealthy parent, did the entitled person actually learn anything? Is that real accountability?
Good question. Maybe not for him, but the homeowner definitely got compensated, which is justice in itself.
True. The system worked for the victim, even if the lesson for the perpetrator is debatable.
Okay, wow. A $250,000 lesson. Our next one is about trying to exploit the laws of human emotion, specifically grief.
Yeah, this one is a pretty brazen attempt at inheritance fraud, and it highlights how scammers really rely on moments of crisis and vulnerability.
So the setup. Our OOP's father, described as wealthy estate over $5 million, significant liquid assets had recently passed away.
That creates a perfect target environment, unfortunately. Grieving families are often distracted, they're desperate for peace, maybe overwhelmed by all the administrative tasks involved in settling an estate.
And the audacity here just leaps off the page. This woman, the source refers to her as SB, stupid bitch.
Which tells you something about the OP's feelings, yeah.
Understandably. She contacts the estate lawyer and claims her 9-year-old child is the deceased father's secret half-brother.
A secret half-brother, meaning the deceased father had another son no one knew about.
Exactly. And her demand was significant. A third of the entire multi-million-dollar estate, plus 9 years of back child support.
Wow. That's a classic high-risk, high-reward play for a scammer. SB was clearly betting the family would be so desperate to avoid scandal or maybe just a prolonged, messy court battle
that they'd offer a big settlement. Hush money, basically. Just to make the claim go away quietly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Easy money, in theory.
But the scammer here made a absolutely fatal foundational mistake. She didn't do even the most basic due diligence on the man she was targeting.
She went after a wealthy man without confirming his, well, biological viability.
Which brings us to the absolute slam dunk defense, the one piece of medical history that makes her entire claim utterly impossible.
Right. 15 years prior to his death, the father had been diagnosed with testicular cancer.
Okay.
And that diagnosis necessitated the surgical removal of both testicles.
Both. Okay, sorry.
So he was rendered completely and permanently sterile 15 years ago.
And the child is 9 years old.
9 years old. Conception would have had to occur, maybe 10 years ago at the absolute most.
Which was 5 years after he was physically incapable of fathering a child. The math just doesn't lie.
Doesn't lie. Yeah. The entire paternity claim just dissolves instantly based on that one medical fact.
You'd assume that would be game over, right?
Yeah.
Scammer realizes they picked the wrong target, quietly disappears.
You'd think. But scammers, especially brazen ones, are often relentless. SB apparently insisted she was telling the truth.
Even faced with the medical impossibility.
Yep. She flat out refused any DNA test, which of course would have been the quickest and cheapest way to definitively prove her wrong.
Of course. What was her reasoning?
She claimed she possessed a secret letter from the deceased father acknowledging paternity.
A secret letter? Convenient.
Very. And predictably, when asked to produce this crucial letter, she refused.
So no DNA, no letter. What next?
Well, when the estate lawyer basically told her, look, produce the evidence or agree to the DNA test, SB pivoted straight to aggression, threatened to see us in court.
Trying to bluff her way through.
Exactly. And then she started aggressively harassing the OOP and his sister, directly texts, voicemails, the works.
Trying to shift the leverage away from the facts, which were terrible for her, and into the emotional realm.
Precisely. Hoping to wear the family down, make them so stressed and intimidated that they'd just pay her something to stop the harassment.
But the OP had a good lawyer, it sounds like.
A sharp, seasoned estate attorney who knew exactly how to handle this kind of pressure tactic. They didn't just deny the claim. They drafted this really surgical counter letter.
Okay. What did it say?
It basically shifted the entire burden of proof and, more importantly, the risk assessment right back onto SP.
How?
Well, first, it strongly reaffirmed the necessity of the DNA test as the primary factor, non-negotiable.
Makes sense.
Then, crucially, regarding her claim to the inheritance itself based on the supposed secret letter, it pointed out a key clause in the will. The will apparently stipulated that without explicit acknowledgement from the father, which a secret letter might qualify as, if it existed and was proven authentic, any such previously unknown child would be legally considered disowned or unacknowledged.
Meaning, even if somehow paternity was relevant, without that letter, she still wouldn't inherit based on the will's terms.
Correct. So if the case went to court, she wouldn't just be fighting the impossible paternity issue. She'd also have to prove the validity of a missing letter just to overcome the will's explicit language. Her legal position was becoming virtually indefensible.
Doubly impossible, almost.
Pretty much. And then the lawyer delivered the real knockout punch, the maneuver that completely killed the game theory behind her scam.
Okay, what was that?
The letter included a very precise, very credible threat. It stated that if her claims were ultimately proven fraudulent, or if she persisted without any credible evidence,
Yes.
she would be billed for the lawyer's extensive time spent dealing with her bogus claim, and estate lawyers are not cheap.
Ah, hitting her wallet.
Exactly. And furthermore, the estate would pursue legal action against her for fraud and harassment.
So the entire foundation of her scam, which relied on the victim paying money to avoid stress and cost,
Was completely flipped. The lawyer made her the one facing massive costs and serious legal jeopardy if she continued.
brilliant, turning the tables.
It really was a beautiful example of legal judo. And just to hammer the final nail in the coffin,
That's more.
the OP's sister did some pretty impressive detective work on the side. She managed to track down SB's estranged parents.
Oh, wow. And what did they say?
They confirmed that SB had pulled the exact same stunt 9 years earlier when the child was actually born.
No way. The same paternity claim scam.
The exact same one. And in that previous instance, she'd apparently successfully been paid off by another man just to leave him alone.
So she had a history of this. That successful payoff basically validated her scam as a business model.
It absolutely did. It taught her that, hey, some people will pay thousands just to avoid conflict, especially messy conflict involving paternity and estates.
Easy money, like you said, until it wasn't.
Right. The scammer's motivation is purely calculated. They play the odds. They know, maybe 90% of the time, the victim will choose the path of least resistance and pay the hush money. It's rational, in a way, to avoid the cost and stress.
But the moment that risk profile changes.
The moment they realize they might have to pay huge legal fees, potentially face criminal charges for fraud, have their history exposed, their motivation just vanishes.
So what happened with SB?
Predictably, faced with the certainty of a DNA test proving sterility, the high likelihood of a very expensive countersuit, and her history potentially coming out in court, she folded immediately.
Did she admit anything?
Not really. She quickly retracted all her statements, apparently claiming she just misunderstood the situation somehow.
Right, misunderstood that trying to extort millions based on a biological impossibility was a bad idea.
Exactly. A swift, quiet victory for the estate, all based on solid research knowing that medical history and a really powerful, credible legal counterthreat.
It just confirms, doesn't it? The best defense against a motivated scammer is often shifting the costs and the risks entirely back onto them.
Make it their problem. Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the next story.
We're calling this one Doggy Justice.
Okay, where does this one take place?
This happened in a college town. Picture this. It's late, like 1:00 a.m. A drunk college student literally breaks down the front door of a private home. It was an old door, apparently, 150 years old.
Breaks it down, like forces entry.
Yeah. And doing so startles the family's large dog, which was properly contained inside the house.
Uh-oh.
And the dog does what, startled, contained dogs do. When a stranger bursts in, it bit the intruder, drew blood, student needed stitches.
Okay, so police get called, I assume.
Immediately. And this is critical. The police investigated thoroughly. They confirmed two objective facts right away. One, the student was clearly committing breaking and entering.
Right.
Two, they checked the dog's records, vaccines, history, everything. The dog was, as a report said, shipshape, totally up to date, no prior incidents, healthy, legally compliant dog.
So the police saw it for what it was.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They basically chalked it up to, self-defense by the dog, or as our source called it, doggy justice. The student got hit with a misdemeanor charge and a fine for the B&E.
Makes sense. And the homeowners, did they press further charges?
No, actually, they decided not to escalate the criminal side. They were thinking about the kid's future, didn't want to ruin it over one stupid drunken mistake.
That's pretty generous considering he broke down their door.
Very generous. They even paid for the door repair and reinforcement themselves, which, by the way, cost them in the low five figures. They didn't even bother chasing the small restitution the student was ordered to pay.
Wow. Okay, so case closed, right? Lesson learned.
You'd think. But this is where entitlement rears its head again. A year later, out of the blue, the student's mother hires a lawyer.
A year later, what for?
She sent the homeowners a demand letter, threatening a civil lawsuit to recover her son's medical costs for the stitches from the dog bite. unless they agreed to settle.
Are you kidding me? Sue the victims of your son's crime. The audacity.
Exactly. The sheer nerve.
So what did the homeowners do? They must have been furious.
They called their original lawyer, the one who helped them initially.
Yeah.
And the lawyer's strategy was brilliant because it was just facts. Pure, simple, undeniable facts.
Okay, what did they do?
Instead of getting into arguments or negotiations, they just compiled a packet of documents, a response letter that basically just contained the evidence.
What was in it?
Everything. The original police report detailing the breaking and entering. The court documents showing the student's misdemeanor conviction and the restitution order. And crucially, all the vet records proving the dog was vaccinated, healthy, no prior issues, plus the police confirmation of that.
So basically a package proving the student was 100% at fault and the dog reacted defensively.
Precisely. They sent this packet over to the mother's lawyer.
What happened?
The mother's lawyer called the homeowner's attorney almost immediately after getting it. Phone call was very short.
Yeah.
Basically said, yeah, we received your documents. The family will no longer be pursuing restitution. End of story.
Wow. Just like that. The facts killed the claim instantly.
Instantly. The homeowner's lawyer guessed, probably correctly, that the student had likely, spun a tale for his mom.
Lied about how it happened. Made himself the victim.
Probably painted himself as innocently walking by when some vicious dog attacked him. Who knows? But the second the lawyer saw the actual evidence, the police report, the conviction, the radel, the narrative collapsed. The objective truth completely shut down the entitled claim.
That's a fantastic example of how just laying out the documented facts can stop something like that cold.
It really is.
Yeah.
Facts versus narrative. Facts won.
But it does make you think. The homeowners were vindicated, yeah, but they were still out 5 figures for fixing their door because of this kid's actions. Did they ever get that back?
That's often the tough part in civil stuff, isn't it? They could have pursued him civilly for the door costs, sure. But given the small restitution order initially, the legal fees to chase that might have eaten up anything they recovered.
Right. Good money after bad.
Exactly. So their accountability came in, stopping the frivolous lawsuit, protecting their dog, keeping their peace of mind, not necessarily getting every dollar back.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the win you have to take.
Yeah, that makes sense. Moving on to the next story.
A guy trying to help his friend pick up car parts.
Right. The original poster, let's call him OOP, and his friend Aaron, they reach a causeway, basically a low road crossing a river.
And it's flooded. We're talking about half a meter, maybe 20 inches of fast-moving water.
OPOP immediately says, no way. He'd had a really bad, near-fatal experience with floodwaters years ago. He knows the danger.
He suggests a detour, right?
Yeah.
Like a sensible 10-kilometer drive to a proper bridge.
Exactly. The safe, logical option.
But Aaron's not having it. He thinks his car, this big old 1997 Commodore wagon, it's heavy.
Yeah, 1,650 kilos plus a couple hundred kilos of parts in the back. He thinks he can just power through.
And this is crucial. OOP decides, nope, I'm getting out. Before Aaron attempts the crossing, self-preservation kicks in.
Probably the smartest decision he made all day. Because what happens next is entirely predictable.
The water just grabs the car.
Instantly. Pushes it clean off the causeway. It rolls, ends up about 50 meters downstream. Totaled.
Aaron gets rescued. Thankfully, he's okay physically. But his reaction, this is where the audacity part really starts.
Oh, yeah. He comes out swinging, verbally at least, blaming OOP for the entire thing.
Blaming him. How?
Get this. He claims OOP, who's a larger guy, over 130 kilos. His weight was necessary ballast.
Ballast. Like his friend getting out made the car too light, and that's why it washed away.
That was Aaron's argument. He genuinely seemed to believe that OOP exiting the vehicle doomed the crossing. It's quite a stretch.
Did he, forget he drove into a flooded river against advice? The sheer nerve of that argument.
Well, it's classic blame shifting, but let's look at the physics for a second. That car, a Commodore wagon, it would start to become buoyant, essentially float, in about 35 centimeters of water above the ground.
So at 50 centimeters deep, it was already basically a boat.
Pretty much. And the force of that moving water is huge. Throwing an extra 130 kilos in, it makes almost no difference against that kind of hydraulic pressure. It was a doomed attempt from the start, ballast or no ballast.
Okay, so his car is gone due to his own recklessness. His reasoning is nonsense, but he doesn't stop there.
No, he doubles down. And this is where it moves from just being foolish to potentially criminal.
He sends OOP a letter.
A letter, supposedly from a lawyer in their town, demanding $50,000.
$50,000? For what? A 1997 Commodore that was maybe worth $1,500?
Exactly. For the car plus personal damages.
Yeah.
The wildly inflated number itself should have been a red flag.
So OOP gets this demand.
Yeah.
What does he do?
He does the smart thing, hires his own lawyer.
And the lawyer contacts the firm supposedly representing Aaron.
Bingo. And finds out the letter was completely fake. Aaron had somehow gotten hold of the firm's letterhead and written it himself.
Wow. So not just blaming his friend, but committing fraud to try and extort money. That's a whole other level.
It really is. And Aaron's reaction when caught, even more audacious if that's possible.
What did he do?
He calls OOP, admits he faked the letter, and then asks OOP to basically help him cover it up.
You're kidding. He asked OOP to retract the complaint about the fake letter.
Yep. Asked him to tell the lawyer it was all a misunderstanding, essentially asking the victim to become complicit in the fraud after being caught.
Unbelievable. And OOP's response?
Let's just say OOP told him, very forcefully, where he could go. The quote involved sand and pounding, possibly with some stronger adjectives. Refused completely.
Good for him. So the takeaway here is trying to cover up terrible judgment with outright crime just makes everything exponentially worse.
Absolutely. A cascade of bad decisions. All right, moving on to the next story. This one starts with a story of infidelity, tragedy, and what looks like profound selfishness, but then, well, the context shifts dramatically.
Tell us the initial story.
It came from a man, 35 years old. Let's call him OOP again. He admitted he was having an affair with a younger coworker, Amy, who was 24.
Okay, messy start.
Very. Then tragedy strikes. Amy has a severe allergic reaction, uses an EpiPen.
Right, standard emergency procedure for anaphylaxis.
Yes, but then comes the critical failure in judgment, according to his initial account. He admits he didn't take her to the hospital afterwards.
Why not?
Because, he said, his wife was expecting him home, he prioritized avoiding trouble with his wife over getting Amy emergency medical care.
Oh, wow. That's bad.
Amy died later that night, likely from a secondary reaction, which is a known risk after using an EpiPen.
And the consequences for him?
Immediate and severe. Suspended, then fired from his job. His wife found out about the affair and the circumstances and kicked him out. His life essentially imploded. So at first glance, it's a story about a man whose selfishness led directly to his lover's death and the ruin of his own life.
But you mentioned a twist. And manipulation.
Yes. Sometime later, Amy's brother, Tom, apparently seeking revenge on OOP, released private messages from Amy's phone.
What did they show?
They painted Amy in a very different light. She was apparently bragging to friends about manipulating OOP, using him for money, trying to leverage the affair for promotions at work. She apparently saw him as an easy target, partly because she wasn't well-liked and was seen as lazy.
So the brothers' attempt at revenge kind of backfired by revealing Amy wasn't just a victim.
Exactly. It added a layer of manipulation to the affair. But even that isn't the biggest twist.
There's more.
Much more. About 15 months after the initial events, a coworker came forward with some absolutely crucial missing information.
Okay, what was it?
2 years before the affair even started, OOP had suffered a serious traumatic brain injury, a TBI.
Oh.
A shop sign literally fell off a building and hit him on the head.
Oh my God. And this TBI, it affected him.
Profoundly. According to the coworker, it fundamentally changed his personality. He became impulsive, had very poor emotional regulation, like acting childishly, constantly pestering people.
And critically.
Critically, his judgment was severely impaired, and he became highly susceptible to manipulation.
Wait, so all the actions that seemed purely selfish or callous before, not taking Amy to the hospital, other poor choices mentioned like missing his own stillborn baby's memorial service to be with Amy.
Suddenly, they look less like malice and more like symptoms.
Yeah.
Predictable consequences of frontal lobe damage. His capacity to make sound judgments, to regulate his behavior, to resist manipulation, it was all compromised.
That changes everything. Even his wife's actions, like apparently not letting him drive or have unsupervised time with their child, that might have been her trying to manage his condition.
It makes a lot more sense in that context, doesn't it? Trying to protect him and others from the consequences of his impaired judgment.
And medically, about Amy, the EpiPen isn't a cure, is it?
Absolutely not. It's a temporary fix, buys you maybe 20 minutes. Standard procedure, the absolute standard of care is immediate hospital transport. The risk of that secondary, potentially fatal reaction is very real.
So his failure to take her was medically catastrophic, but maybe not driven by simple selfishness, given the TBI.
And there's another layer. Anaphylaxis itself can cause confusion, delirium. The coworker even raises the possibility that Amy herself might not have been fully coherent or capable of rationally agreeing not to go to the hospital.
So both parties might have had compromised capacity in that critical moment. What a tragedy.
It really reframes the entire event from simple negligence to something far more complex involving injury and potentially impaired consent.
And the fallout spread beyond just them, right?
Yeah.
Into the company.
Massively. The scandal apparently led to one of the company's founders being pushed out,
Why?
allegedly for giving OOP advice that was seen as acting against the business interest in the midst of the crisis.
And that had knock-on effects.
Huge ones. When the founder was ousted, the company apparently pivoted direction almost immediately towards defense contracts that the R&D team saw as ethically compromised.
Don't they?
The entire R&D team quit in protest. The whole department walked out.
Wow. One personal tragedy, amplified by this hidden context, essentially caused an ethical crisis and brain drain at the company.
It shows how interconnected these things can be, and the chaos didn't even end there. Amy's brother, Tom, the one who leaked the messages, his quest for vengeance went too far. He succeeded in getting Amy's death benefits canceled by using her phone data to prove fraud and contract violations.
Okay.
But then he got arrested himself for vandalizing the car of the head of HR.
Just more chaos.
And one final grim detail. Bo O.P., the man with the TBI, was apparently violently assaulted by another colleague.
Why?
The colleague had been denied a promotion that Amy had allegedly secured through manipulation and used the affair scandal as an excuse to attack OOP. Just layers upon layers of dysfunction and consequence. All right, moving on to the next story.
It's heavy stuff.
So what's the situation here?
We're talking about a family crisis involving a listener's brother and his 2 teenage sons, ages 16 and 14.
Okay, teenagers, always a complex time.
Especially here. These boys had somehow fallen deep down the rabbit hole of extreme alt-right and QAnon ideologies.
Oh, wow. Where were they getting this from?
Primarily online. Places like 4chan were mentioned.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just abstract beliefs. They were actively using really awful language, racist, homophobic, misogynistic stuff they picked up.
That's deeply concerning.
And crucially, it bled into this real sense of entitlement. They started saying things like they were better than black people. And because of that, they were just owed a paid-for college education by their parents.
Owed it. Despite their views, what about their grades?
That's the other part. They only had like C's and B's. Not exactly stellar academic performance justifying anything. It was pure ideological entitlement.
How did the parents react? Particularly the father.
The father, understandably, reached a snapping point. He apparently just told them, look, if you think you're so superior and don't recognize your privilege, figure out how to pay for college yourselves.
A heat-of-the-moment reaction.
Yeah, but then the parents quickly realized, wait, just cutting them off completely might be counterproductive. It could just push them further into those online echo chambers for validation and comfort.
Right. It could backfire badly.
Exactly. So they knew they needed a strategy, something that enforced boundaries and accountability, but also reinforced that they were still loved, still part of the family. The dad's sentiment was basically, I'm not backing down on the consequences, but we can't make them feel totally abandoned either.
That's an incredibly difficult balance to strike, setting firm lines without severing the relationship entirely.
Immense challenge. So the strategy actually started not with punishment, but with intervention and trying to build some empathy. The boy's uncle stepped in.
The listener who shared the story.
No, the listener's brother, the boy's uncle. He took them backpacking.
Backpacking? Why?
To get them away, create distance from their screens, their online world. And the uncle's approach was key. He didn't lecture them about their views. He mostly listened, asked questions.
Trying to understand their perspective first.
Yeah, and through that, he found an opening. He started talking about their high school football team, specifically about some of their black teammates, focused on shared experiences, shared struggles, common goals on the field.
Trying to find common ground, humanize the other.
Exactly. Trying to gently introduce empathy, make them see beyond the online rhetoric to the real people around them. It was just the beginning, but it was an attempt to crack open that ideological shell.
Okay, so that was the first step. What happened when they got back? Did the parents lay down the law then?
They did. But it wasn't just yelling. They implemented a really structured 4-part plan for accountability. The goal was to force the boys to confront the reality of hard work and responsibility, directly contrasting it with their entitled talk. It had to be tangible.
Yeah, but what were the 4 points?
Right. First 2 were financial and effort-based. 1, get jobs immediately. Summer jobs, part-time, whatever. They needed to actually earn money.
Okay, makes sense. Experience the work they talked about.
2, the college fund approach changed completely. No more free ride. Instead, the father set up a matching fund. Every single dollar the boys earned and put into an education savings account, he would match.
Oh, interesting. So college becomes an investment they have to contribute to significantly.
Exactly. It shifts from being a birthright to being a goal they have to actively work towards. And any money left over after college would be theirs to keep. Oh, and also gas money, car insurance. Suddenly, their responsibility now, too.
That forces them to connect their work-hard rhetoric to their own lives, doesn't it? Not just use it against others.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But maybe the most crucial part was tackling the source of the radicalization.
The internet access.
You got it. Point 3. Digital detox. Major changes. iPhones gone, replaced with basic flip phones.
Wow, flip phones. Teenagers must have loved that.
Oh, I'm sure. And screen time on any family device's computers, tablets was slashed to just 1 hour per day. Period.
And monitored, presumably.
Yes, and only allowed in common areas of the house, like the living room, where parents could see what was going on. It was a direct attempt to cut off, or at least severely limit, the fire hose of online extremism and misinformation.
You can't really deprogram if the harmful input is still flowing freely.
Exactly right. Cut off the supply chain. And the 4th rule.
What was the last piece?
Social accountability. Tangible interaction with the real world. They were required to volunteer once a month, minimum.
Doing what?
With a charity or community organization of their choice. But crucially, they had to research it, contact them, and set it all up themselves.
Forcing them into real, unmediated interactions with the diverse community they were criticizing online. Smart.
Yeah, pushing them outside their bubble, making them engage constructively.
So what was the outcome? How did the boys react to all this? Did it work?
Well, the immediate reaction was, predictably, annoyance.
Yeah.
They weren't happy about the jobs, the flip phones, the limits.
I bet.
But interestingly, the parents also noted this underlying sense of relief. Almost like even though the rules were strict, they were clear, structured, and fair. They weren't just being cast out.
So the structure itself was maybe, in a weird way, reassuring.
Possibly. And they seemed overwhelmed by the sudden weight of responsibility, the jobs, the money management, the volunteering logistics. It suggested they were actually taking it seriously, grappling with the reality of it, which was a huge contrast to their earlier, entitled pronouncements about how they wouldn't whine about hard work.
They were suddenly forced to live up to their own rhetoric. It's a fascinating approach.
Very much so. A difficult, long-term strategy, obviously, but focused on tangible consequences and reality.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive today. We hope it gave you plenty to consider.